Socialist? What do you think of Zohran Mamdani?
I'm a really big fan. I'll be voting for him this November.
Are you a communist?
Yeah, I am. I would say I'm a communist.
Muslim? Do you feel that a lot of Muslims across the city are supporting Mamdani just because he's Muslim?
100%. Just because he's Muslim. This is America. We don't do that.
And potentially the next mayor of New York City.
For the first time really ever, Jews in New York City have reason to feel sort of a physical fear.
Just own it. You know, he doesn't like white people.
His name is Zohran Mamdani. A self-described democratic socialist, he has advocated for cutting police budgets, freezing rents, and creating government-run grocery stores. He has declared that there should be no billionaires, and his ultimate goal is to seize the means of production. To understand his rise and what it could mean for the city, I travelled across New York, beginning in the Bronx.
I'm Dion Powell. I was born and raised in the Bronx. I'm a community leader.
Where do you think that most people here in the Bronx will vote? I mean, do you think a lot of people here will vote for Mamdani or for Cuomo?
I think a lot of people in the Bronx are going to vote for Mamdani because they're programmed through the Democratic Party, because we're like one of the bluest areas of the country. We're like 1.1 million Democrats.
Okay, so are you from the Bronx?
Yes, I'm from the Bronx.
And do you support Zohran Mamdani?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Why?
Because his ideas, and I think he's gonna do a better job than everyone else that was before him.
What kind of ideas do you like?
Free buses, the rent situation, and I think almost everything. I like him.
I don't like his policies on defunding the police.
You think that'll be bad for the Bronx?
Very bad, detrimental to the Bronx.
He's talked previously about defunding the police, and he thinks the NYPD is racist, or he said that in the past. Do you agree with him?
Yes and no, because a whole lot of that stuff is going on in all the police departments.
So they should be defunded?
No, not at all. We need them. We need to protect them. Protect us, the citizens of the city of New York.
I really don't like some of the policies that he's trying to implement. I don't think life is about anything being free. So for him to say that he wants to like open grocery stores and free food and free, I mean, I understand that some people do need stuff and it should be free for some, but I don't think that his policy should be based on free.
Obviously, Mamdani is a Muslim.
Right.
Do you think he's kind of getting the Muslim vote here?
Yes and no. Yes, with the Democratic program zombies, Democrat straight down. But then again, a lot of Muslims are realizing that, hey, he's kind of antithetical to the religion. He actually is promoting things that's against the Quran's teachings of legalized prostitution, when it comes to gender affirming care and those kind of fluidities. Some people say it's like apostasy, but if they really knew what was going on, then the imams might take a bigger role to speak out. But sometimes in their religion and culture, it's not their way.
Hello.
Hello, thank you for coming. How are you?
Great to meet you.
Thank you for coming to Darussalam.
Thanks so much.
This mosque has been here for a while, but I will give you a tour.
Yeah, well, I'll take my shoes off first.
No problem.
So this is where people were making the speeches? Yeah.
So they call it member, but you stand here, it's sunnah, right? It's something the Prophet did. So when he spoke to everybody, back in the day, so this is what then he will step on. So he'll go like this, come on. So pick up your mic, and you'll be talking to the crowd, just really sermon a message that you want to give that day. And it's on you. My name is Sekou Kruma. I'm from Liberia and Guinea, African, Black, Muslim, Bronx kid.
So you came from Liberia to America originally, and there's a guy running for mayor, Zohran Mamdani, who came from Uganda in Africa to America. He's also a Muslim.
Absolutely.
Are you excited about the prospect of him becoming mayor?
I came here in 2009, January 20, 2009. Guess who I saw in the airport on TV all over? It was Obama
taking office, I mean, going to the White House January 20. That's the system. At 14, I will be proud, right? You know, to see a black man becoming a president of the greatest country in the world. I was proud in Africa. Fast forward to when I was grown, I got my own knowledge. I'm trying to fix problems. And I'm like, what did what did Obama really, really do for black people? Because I am suffering in the Bronx right now. It's the same cycle that we see Obama, as black people supported him. We're seeing the same thing as Mamdani running, where Muslims are following him. They don't know nothing about this man, right?
So do you feel that a lot of Muslims in the Bronx and across the city are supporting Mamdani just because he's Muslim?
100%. Just because he's Muslim. And that's why I'm here to educate everybody. This is America. We don't do that.
Do you think those beliefs of Mamdani, which he said before that he wants to legalize prostitution and that he is in favor of LGBT plus and so on, do you think that does align with Islam?
Not at all. And that's why you don't see a lot of Muslims in office.
So have you met lots of people or lots of Muslims who do support Mamdani?
Not yet, until he said he want to normalize, you know, prostitution. And he wants to, you know, again, go against the NYPD, which is like, I grew up here. A lot of my friends die in the street, you know, where you at? You know, you didn't take no bullet. You didn't see nobody dying. You don't see how many gangs are doubling up in our communities and all that. You're talking behind the office because you're not in office yet.
Mamdani's Muslim identity and anti-Israel rhetoric have sparked fear of cultural shifts and anti-Semitism among some Christians and Jews in the city, recalling debates about London's mayor, Sadiq Khan.
Great to see you, Luke.
Of course.
How's it going? Right, so this is a church. I know it's not your church.
Yes.
But it's a church.
It's a historic church, originally a Greek Catholic church. As things go, communities change, and it's now a Spanish-speaking church, Baptist church. I am Luke Moon. I am the executive director of the Fields Project. I'm a pastor sometimes, but I'm very active in the intersection of faith and politics in all over the United States, but here in New York as well.
So if you look at a place like London, where we have a Muslim mayor, is that something you're concerned about? Do you see that as a kind of a warning sign for New York? You don't want to go down this path?
I do. I mean, I think it's been bad in other places in the world, and looking at how it's affected London, I think I'm concerned about how it might affect us here in New York.
And what things specifically are you worried about in terms of his religious perspective?
Well, you know, there's kind of this like good cop, bad cop setup, I feel, in which Mamdani, like his policies, if you look at him, I mean, what is he advocating for? I mean, he wants, you know, he's pledged $100 million to support illegal immigrants, but that was not the ones, you know, that doesn't necessarily, you know, focus on kind of the moral issues. But he was pressed this last week on decriminalizing prostitution. He wants to support gender reassignment surgery type stuff, which is kind of way outside of, I think, what typically Muslims would affirm. I mean, he seems to be much more aligned with his kind of socialist ideals as opposed to the Islamist ones. But nonetheless, what it does is provide, you know, he's the good cop to the bad cop Islamist world, right? So, you know, he can say, yeah, I'm Muslim, you know, I'm not like those Muslims, but, you know, I'm Muslim. So it provides the fertile ground for increased Muslim activity in New York.
So, as you say, people see him as kind of the good cop because he's so supportive of trans rights and things that are quite secular or progressive, and most conservative Muslims would think this is mad. So you would still warn people against Mamdani that maybe this, as you say, like this could open up something more dangerous.
It will. It's not a could. It's like, again, he's the good cop. He's the nice, easygoing, very good at social media, great on camera, knows when to smile, does all the right stuff, and says all the right things, and says the things that, these people want to hear. But behind him comes 1,400 years of violent expansion.
Being pro-Israel. It's funny how that switched. My name is Gary Weiss, and I'm a journalist and author here in New York City. I'm speaking to you from an apartment in Greenwich Village in the heart of Mamdani country.
You're Jewish.
Yes.
Mamdani has been fairly controversial for some Jews in the city. Why is that?
Because of his past record of anti-Israel agitation. That actually is the core of his identity. That is the core of his activism, is to fight Israel, not just to be, as the press puts it, critical of Israel, but to oppose Israel's existence. And in the view of myself, in the view of many people, he has veered into anti-Semitic rhetoric. And that's a serious problem for a city that traditionally has a very large Jewish population, and even today has more Jews than any other city in America. He's tried to water it down, and Jews have a great deal of reason to fear this man, and more so than most New Yorkers. I think most New Yorkers have a lot of reason to fear him on multiple grounds. His inexperience, basically his Marxist worldview. But Jewish Americans, for the first time really ever, Jews in New York City have reason to feel sort of a physical fear because he represents forces that will actually hurt Jews.
He, of course, does have his Jewish supporters.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of Jews on his campaign staff,
Oh.
even Jewish politicians in the city.
Absolutely.
Lots of Jews supported him in the primaries. Why do you think that is if he's so, anti-Jewish?
Well, you have to keep in mind that, when you talk about Jewish New Yorkers, there are two types of Jewish New Yorkers. They're the ones who are identifiable Jews, who walk around with, I'm not one of them, but you walk around with kippahs as Jewish, with yarmulkes, or are Hasidic, and these people are sort of in the front lines of anti-Semitism. And then you have sort of a sliding scale of Jewish identity. You have people like me, I can walk down the street, no one's going to necessarily see Jew, look at you guy. I pass, it could be Italian, I could be Armenian, anything other than Jewish. I can walk through the streets without being in danger. Then you have on this sliding scale, you have people whose main identity is politics, is left-wing politics, and these people are among the people who support Mamdani. These are the people who are of Jewish background and support Mamdani, which is fine. And I think what's the problem is that a lot of these people bathe their political ideology in Judaism, and I think that's objectionable. I don't represent myself to be a representative of a particularly Jewish point of view, therefore my politics are Jewish, I don't keep kosher. I don't say that my not keeping kosher, that my eating ham sandwiches is a reflection of a Jewish value. But you have people who support Mamdani, who are Jewish, okay, who embrace Mamdani as a representative of Jewish values. And I think that's both fallacious, dangerous, and I think also extremely sort of hypocritical and disgusting on a very, very basic level.
In Manhattan, Mamdani's progressive vision resonates with many, reflecting the city's liberal heart.
What do you think of Zohran Mamdani?
I'm a really big fan. I'll be voting for him this November. I'm a really big fan of his policies on freezing the rent and having free buses. Yeah, I'm really excited about him as candidate.
Are you also a democratic socialist?
That wouldn't necessarily be how I'd categorize myself, but I do support democratic socialism. I align myself a little further to the left than that.
Oh, further to the left?
Yeah.
Are you a communist?
Yeah, I am. I would say I'm a communist.
And what does that involve?
To me, I feel like communism my view of communism involves also dissolution of the state in general, being about how we can bring back services to the people taking control of their own wages, stuff like that.
I like him.
Why?
I like his ideas. I like his personality. I think he says what he believes, and we need that. He's got a lot of energy. I think he's honest, and I support him a lot.
He said one controversial statement recently about wanting to tax richer white neighborhoods. Have you heard of this?
I haven't heard that, but I have no problem with that. I think we need to raise taxes on people who are better off and provide more social services. People should have enough to eat, and they should be able to find places where they can afford to live.
But the word white seems odd to some people, just specifying the race.
Okay, so it's odd to some people.
Or racist even. Not to you?
Not to me.
Do you support Zohran Mamdani?
I'm not. The reason is that he somehow doing the worst thing to Israel, and he's not capable to run this city. It's too big on him. Democrat people are not seeing Israel as a friend, as they see them as a threat to democracy.
What do you think of Zohran Mamdani?
Currently, I think he's a good politician and also a good person. And I think overall, he's in the right directions of what we should strive for to see in politicians.
What do you like about him?
I like his demeanor. I also like the fact that he's honest. He's a very forthright. And there's not much of the, how do I put it? Of the fluff.
Some Jewish New Yorkers are concerned about him. He actually has a lot of support from some Jewish people, but some are against him. And he isn't condemning this phrase, globalize the intifada. I don't know if you've heard of this phrase, globalize the intifada. The intifada is like an uprising against Israel. What do you think about the fact that he won't condemn this?
I think it's a tricky situation in general. Being a Jewish New Yorker, right? I've kind of seen a little bit of both sides of the spectrum. It's not so cut and dry.
So it doesn't worry you that he doesn't condemn this phrase about the intifada as a Jewish New Yorker?
It doesn't concern me as much.
What do you think of Zohran Mamdani?
Not much. I mean, I think that he's a very good speaker. He's very slick, and I'd vote for him if I didn't know any better.
So you don't like him or you do like him?
I don't like him because his policies are going to be a disaster for New York. I mean, he's a communist.
He says he's a democratic socialist.
That's the same thing.
So I'm Catherine Wild. I am president of the Partnership for New York City, which is the city's business leadership organization.
So you once called yourself the lone defender of billionaires in 2020. And obviously we've got Zohran Mamdani, who said there shouldn't be any billionaires publicly. What do you make of his comment?
Well, I take his comment not as literally wiping out billionaires, but basically saying the biggest problem and the biggest threat to American capitalism is the income inequality gap. And so I actually think many people, including myself, agree with him that the challenge of the economic challenge to capitalism is that we have kind of frozen a large number of people at the bottom and allowed a few people to rise to great wealth.
I want to ask about his philosophy as a politician. I presume that you would describe yourself as a capitalist. He calls himself a socialist, a democratic socialist. And in 2021, he gave a speech to the Democratic Socialists of America where he said the end goal should be to seize the means of production. This is the kind of language that Marx used when he was writing his communist theories. And obviously President Trump has called Mamdani a communist lunatic.
The only way you're going to beat the communists, because you have a communist running, which is fine. I'll have to deal with a communist in New York City. I never thought that was going to happen.
Well, I think it's easy to say a lot of things when you're not in power. Things change when you become the mayor, because all of a sudden your constituency is much broader than the Democratic Socialists. In fact, they're a very small minority of New Yorkers. And I don't think his vote, I don't think his win in the Democratic primary and his likely win in the general election in November, I don't think that's coming because people support socialist principles. I think it's coming because they think he is a smart, honest politician who's going to do the best by the city and really seek to deliver results.
You say that you think that he will stick to his principles and that he's an honest politician and so on, but also that he doesn't mean that he's a socialist, or he's not.
No, I'm not saying that he doesn't mean he's a socialist. He may well be a socialist. It's just that he is not going to change the economic system of this country. That's not the job of the mayor. That's not within the powers of the mayor. So
the same with the billionaires comment. I mean, you said he literally doesn't mean wipe out billionaires. Do you understand? I suppose my question is, if he says these quite outlandish things, when do we believe him? Do we believe him on the billionaires thing, or do we believe him on his more moderate policies?
I think we have to wait to listen to what he says when he has the power to execute. Because he's a young man. We look back, I questioned him on something he had said about being against capitalism, something that was on Instagram that was being used against him in the campaign. And I said, "Did you really say this?" And he said, "Well, that was 2020. As if that were a lifetime ago. For those of us who are older, it was, it was yesterday. So I think it's a difference in perception. And again, I don't think you can judge somebody who's been on social media, kibitzing with their contemporaries. I don't think you can judge how they're going to behave when they get into power by youthful idealism. And I do think, based on my conversations with Mamdani, he is more an idealist than an ideologue, if you know what I mean.
While Mamdani enjoys popular support across the city, there are concerns about his socialism, police reforms, and divisive rhetoric from millions of New Yorkers.
I came from Venezuela in 2016 to the United States, and I lived through really the terrible consequences of a socialist economy that reduced us to nothing, from being a normal middle-class family that had 2 cars, that had an apartment, that went to a normal school. My parents owned a gas station that earned a few $1,000s a month, to being in extreme poverty, earning $100 a month, with no water in my apartment for many days, with blackouts every week, lining up for basic necessities, and just feeling like you live in a third world country after you felt like you had a good life.
So as an immigrant to America, a recent immigrant, you must be a big fan of Zohran Mamdani.
No, the opposite. I mean, Mamdani is somebody who, to me, represents everything I fled from, who represents the danger that not just Venezuela was in 25 years ago, but that the entire world is in. And it feels to me that, even though America is probably the least likely nation to become a socialist country, I do think it is in danger.
Zohran talks about income inequality. You have all these billionaires. What's the point in billionaires? You've got all these people in poverty. Shouldn't we redistribute their wealth? And he also raises concerns about rent prices in New York, and it's so expensive to live here, and rent prices have massively gone up in the last few years, where wages haven't kept up with them. So there's some real economic problems in the city, and he thinks he has the solutions. How do you respond to his criticisms of what's going on in New York?
I absolutely agree that rent has gone up much faster than incomes, and that's the biggest problem, economic problem facing people in the New York City metropolitan area, not just here, but also in most of the America's major cities, even in Canada, even in the UK, like in the entire developed world, really, rent is a big issue, and mostly caused by the same problem of lack of supply. It's especially actually an Anglo-Saxon society problem. It's not as much of a problem in other European nations. So I agree with that diagnosis. I do disagree with his solutions. And I especially think that it's important that we understand that his solutions would make it worse. Because this is a man who thinks that being rich, is the fact that there are rich people is why there are poor people. That the rich are rich because the poor are poor. When he says that there should be no billionaires because they don't need that much money, guess what? I don't think you need 3 weddings, one in Dubai, one in Uganda, and one in New York City. That's what he did. Maybe we should have used that money to help the homeless people in New York City. Now you might say, oh, you're just judging him Well, he's the one judging others, so I'm just applying the same standard that he's applying to others.
He's also talked about having government-run grocery stores to tackle corporate greed, and he thinks that grocery stores are exploiting the population by making vast profits, and all you have to do is have the government run these grocery stores and they'll be incredibly efficient and there'll be no margin, profit margin, and everything will be cheap and nice.
The idea that the government can run a grocery store better or any business because they have no profit motive is actually twisted. It's the total opposite. Because you have no profit motive, you're going to face higher costs. Because what's the incentive for a business owner who wants to make money? He wants to minimize his costs. What's the incentive for a politician, a democratic politician, right, is to win re-election. So why would he fire the workers that don't do their job? Why would he pay them the market rate and not higher wages? So he's going to face higher costs for employment that are actually going to completely trounce whatever profit he's not going to make from the grocery store. The grocery stores are going to operate at a loss. I can assure you that. I'm willing to bet any amount of money, everything I have, that these grocery stores will lose money. And who's going to pay that? The taxpayer. So at the end, this is just going to be totally fruitless, just like in Venezuela. Because we had government grocery stores in Venezuela. Not only were they losing money, but they had worse quality products. Many of them went rotten because there was no incentive. If you don't depend on your consumers to survive, right, but on the taxpayer, why would you operate efficiently? They won't. And imagine trying to fire a city worker from a grocery store. It's impossible to fire government employees in this place.
Maud Marin, I'm a New Yorker. Right now, I am the Republican candidate for district attorney here in Manhattan. Previously, I was a public defender working at Legal Aid Society, which is the largest public defender in our city.
Zohran Mamdani, in 2020, he called the NYPD racist, anti-queer, and a major threat to public safety. He also advocated for defunding the police. He's since tried to distance himself from those comments.
Not very much.
So what do you make of this idea that the NYPD is this racist, anti-queer organization that needs to be defunded?
Racist, anti-queer, defunding. I mean, it's the trifecta of stupid responses from spoiled rich kid liberals who have been steeped in anti-American and anti-Western ideas at their expensive universities and from their rich parents who hate America. It is ridiculous, and it's, you know, it's the future of New York City because this fool is probably going to win unless people wake up and realize that these, they're really hateful ideas. Most of the, the starting salary of the NYPD would not sustain the lifestyle of Zohran Mamdani ever, right? Like the cops that he's calling racist and anti-queer, whatever the hell that means, don't earn enough money to send their children to the kind of private schools that Zohran Mamdani went to his whole life. So I am, I have no tolerance for it. It's ridiculous. We've seen it. I've seen it. I've been battling it, these stupid ideas in our city for years, particularly when it comes to education.
Mamdani has called for taxing the rich, for rent freezes, for helping ordinary New Yorkers.
Let's quote him accurately, for taxing rich white people.
Right, so he said in one of his literature that we're going to target rich white neighborhoods. I guess that's quite divisive language. What do you make of that?
I'm not rich, but I do live in what Mamdani would call a rich white neighborhood. Racism is racism is racism. Just own it. He doesn't like white people.
What do you think the city will look like if and when Mamdani wins?
New York is a strong, resilient city with strong, resilient New Yorkers in it, and I think we'll get through it. But unfortunately, it's a little bit like if you've ever had an alcoholic in your life, like someone has to really hit rock bottom before they come back up again. And I am hoping for New York that our rock bottom doesn't have to be as bad as it was in the bad old days before we start coming back up again.
I'm Ryan Grodowski. I am a political consultant and writer and a host of a podcast.
Do you think he represents the modern Democratic Party?
He represents a lot of the modern Democratic Party in the sense that a lot of his politics are based on rage against the economic dominant majority. because whites and Asians in the city are the economic dominant majority, a lot of his politics are either explicitly or inexplicitly out to hurt them. He is opposed to things like the specialized schools, which are overwhelmingly going to Asians who dominate in math and science. You have to remember, 2/3 of the city either live on the dole or work for the city, and 1/3 of the city supports the entire city's economy. Raging against those people who are overwhelmingly white and a large chunk are Asian is going to be problematic for the city's future.
Well, most of his voters are white, and he actually won a lot of Jews as well, liberal Jews in the city, despite accusations of anti-Semitism. And as you say, there's been some language about white people specifically. He talks about taxing richer white neighborhoods in his campaign literature.
New York's native white population has been shrinking radically, as a lot of them are working class and have been priced out of the city. They either live on Long Island or upstate or in New Jersey or Florida. And what has replaced them are either immigrants or progressive imports from middle America. If you are a blue-haired, multi-gendered, feminist woman with a buzz cut, you're not going to stay in Middletown, Ohio. You're going to come to Brooklyn. And if you look at where Mamdani's votes came from specifically, they were specifically from very large pockets of white progressives and a sizable chunk of Middle Eastern and Asian populations. The question is not whether will the Democrats end up eventually nominating a Zohran Mamdani or an AOC as their nominee in 2028 or the future. The question is just when. I mean, we're all just playing games until we get to that point.
From the mosques of the Bronx to the towers of Manhattan, Zohran Mamdani's New York is a city divided between those who want equality and those who want freedom. His supporters see a visionary socialist. His critics see a dangerous communist. While his rise draws comparisons to London's Sadiq Khan, Mamdani's rhetoric is far more uncompromising. If he wins in November, New York City will be changed forever.